Morning, welcome back to the channel. It is Monday and yeah, we've had a bit of snow today, or overnight last night. I'm heading up into the borders to a DX235. It has a rail pressure fault to do with the relief valve on the end of the rail, but it's also due a 3,000 hour service, so I'm hoping the two are linked, and I've got a suspicion that fuel filters will sort out the fuel fault. This job came into another dealer further down country, and they've asked us to attend, so that's where we're heading today. The spot where we're heading to is the same town I was in last week when I was at that DX85 for the water in the plug, but unfortunately this job came in the following day, or later on the following afternoon. So it's always one of those, isn't it? You can't be in the right place at the right time. But yeah, it's a nice drive anyway. Everything looks nice when it's got a fresh layer of snow on it, but when it gets all slushy and horrible, that's when you just want it to disappear, isn't it? So yeah, should be an interesting day, and fingers crossed we'll get to the bottom of this fuel fault. Right, I made it to my 235, no major drama on the roads. I'll go and have a crack with the driver and see what's going on, and we'll get suited and booted too, look. I am plugged on. History, we've got 2 for signal range high, signal range low for rail pressure sensor. We've got a current fault that's active, short circuit to battery at your rear heater relay. We've got pressure relief valve is open, pressure relief valve is reached, maximum allowed open time, that's present. Demand for a SCR, basically a regen, hasn't been fulfilled, that's historic. Interruption of dosing inducement code is historic, and inducement warning active due to tampering, so that code there will go with the urea heater relay fault. So essentially we've got 2 faults. Have a look on the inducement codes. There's nothing there. So I've got a new rail relief valve, which looks like we might need, but obviously we'll check the fuel system and make sure we've not got any restrictions. I'll have a look at this heater relay fault just now. Click help on there, and it should bring up a troubleshooting guide, so I'll just have a bit of a nosy at this. So I am going to look at the SCR fault shortly, but first of all I'm just going to replace the fuel filters, check the filter head, check fuel flow before I go any further. We'll have the machine running as it should before we know whether it's fuel restricting the performance of the machine or whether it's the inducement code. So I'll just change this fuel filter and this one. I've got the filter head off, and right enough you can see something sticking out the side of it. If we have a look, see how it's all choked up in there. So we'll give this a good swill out, strip it down and clean it. So that's some of the muck that I've got out the filter head. Stripped it and cleaned it, built it back up. I'll go and put this back on the machine now, and hopefully the machine will bleed up. Right, so the new filters are on. I started it and ran it. I just revved it up to full chat, which it ran for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then it threw up an error code and it cut its revs down to sort of 75%, and the current code that's active is pressure relief valve is open. So when I went to the data monitoring and had a look at what the rail set point was to what the actual sensed pressure was, the pressure was down by quite a bit. So it does look to me like the relief valve has failed. Now this may or may not fix it because it's a mechanical seal. The previous relief valve will have sealed into the rail and made its own mark, so to speak. And in my experience, it's sort of like a 50-50 chance whether or not that new relief valve will fix it. But the price of this compared to a new rail is Jurassic, so fingers crossed this relief valve will seat properly. That's the relief valve at this end of the rail here. It does look as though it has had a new rail on at some point. Is what I'm thinking, because the paint has been marked on these injector pipes. We'll see, but I'm not convinced this is a good idea. So I've got the new relief valve in. You can see what the rail pressure is versus the set point. It's very similar. And if I ramp up the engine RPM, we should see both rise similarly. They're both very, very close there. It looks like that relief valve has done its job. Like I say, it's a 50-50% chance whether or not those relief valves cure it. We'll let it run at high idle for a bit now, let the machine get hot. See what happens from there. Bad news, I'm afraid, and I'll show you for why. While I was running the machine, I had the all the data being recorded, so you can see at the start here where I started it, and then I ramped the revs up, and then I ramped the revs up again and again, and that's where it ran at high idle. I then turned on the auto idle, which is where the revs drop down, or the fuel pressure drops down, and then I started to work the machine by hand. So that's it just running normally, and then that's me dead ending the levers, so you can see the fuel pressure spikes, which is what you'd expect, and then it hits a point where it just drops off, and at that point, that's when that came on. Unfortunately, I think we're going to need to put a rail on this machine, which I don't have with me, so I'm going to make some phone calls now and see where the sort of nearest one is. Right, so plan of action is I've got a rail coming up from HQ, so I'm going to go and meet him halfway and hopefully get back to this machine before nightfall. Gonna be a late one, I think. Right, we're just after 3 o'clock. I've got my fuel rails, so I'm just heading back to the machine. We'll be about 40 minutes or so. That rail only takes about half an hour fitting, and then there's the rest of the service to complete, so plenty to do, and daylight is starting to escape. But it is what it is. We'll crack on, and with a bit of luck we'll have a 235 back up and running, fingers crossed. Right, we're going to start it, see what happens. In a minute now. Can't really see. Right, it's time to crack on with the rest of the service now. That machine seems to be a lot better. So I've got an engine oil and pilot filter to do in there, engine oil to drop, 2 hubs to change, and the hydraulic return filter. And I am very glad of this light. Look at that, ideal. Right, we'll crack on with this for now. I've just got this return filter to do now, but you'll notice this has got a great big pipe going into it. This is like a free flow return. Normally you'd pipe it, normally you'd pipe it onto a different tank line. Obviously this is a very, very, very free flow return. It's not the first time I've seen this before, but I'm just deciding whether or not I should just take that pipe off. I'll have a go, we'll see what happens. Well, that's gone better than I expected. Oh, I forgot my filter. I'll run back and get my filter. Hang on. Right, there we go. Get that off. Just like that. Right, engine oil now. So he's going to work that machine now while I tidy up. That's the service complete. And if the faults are going to come back, now's the time for them to come back while I'm still here. But I don't think it's been a bad day really. A bit of teamwork's paid off in the end, hasn't it? Like I say, it's a 50-50 kind of will it, won't it, to be the answer, those relief valves. And if the machine had been 15 minutes away from base, it would have been the relief valve, but unfortunately it's an hour and 45 minutes away, and it needed the rail, so it is what it is. I reckon if I had 10 of those faults, 5 of them I would get away with just a relief valve, and believe me, the relief valves are an awful lot cheaper than fitting the entire rail. Anyway, with that said, I'm going to pack up now and head for home, because it was after 5 o'clock when I got that rail on, and I've serviced it now, so it'll be definitely knocking on towards 6:30 I would imagine. So if you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and for more bits and pieces, check out TikTok and Instagram, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as well, because there's more videos like this, and yeah, there's lots to see. Thanks for watching, we'll see you in the next one.